Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you want mentoring or life coaching, go check out my website at skyazrael.com. Let's talk a little bit about faith or freedom. I want to be a little critical of religion here, and I hope I don't offend anybody. Any system you have to be able to criticize. If you can't criticize a system, an organization, a government, if you can't criticize it, it's tyrannical, it's a cult, it's a dictatorship, it's unhealthy. We have to be able to criticize our institutions. Is faith freedom? Do you have freedom in religion? You have freedom of religion, in America at least, where you can worship any god you want. But do you have freedom when you are religious? Our founding fathers pondered this. This is where the origin of separation of church and state came from. Do you have freedom in religion? Religion is a monarchical hierarchy. God is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He's the boss of bosses, the Don of Dons. The big man. Nobody's above him. Nobody's equal to him. If you even suggest that you're equal to God, oh, you piss off a whole lot of people. Some people in some parts of the world, if you say that, they want to kill you. How dare you suggest that you're equal to the boss? So when you're religious, aren't you giving up part of your freedom? There's the idea of being a servant to God. They talk about this in Christianity. In the Muslim faith, because of the Arabic language, I believe it's actually called a slave to God. You prostrate yourself on the floor, crawl around, you can't even look at God. You cry and beg and whine and moan and have looked at God as your boss, as your creator. It's not your mother. Your mother, you weren't created in your mother's womb. God created you, right? This is what every super religious person thinks. There's nothing wrong with being religious. I'm not here to bash religion. What we're talking about is freedom. And are you free within the confines of your faith, within your religion? Are you a servant? Are you free, or are you a servant? Are you a servant to God where you have to kneel and bend and bow and crawl around, or are you equal? Freedom adds a certain amount of equality. If I come into a room full of people and I dominate the room, I become the alpha, and I conquer the room, like Alexander the Great. I'm the president of this room. I'm the CEO of this room. I'm the king on the throne. Who's the leader? Who's running shit? Sky over there. He's the one shot calling. I got the keys to this yard. I'm the boss. You can do that. People do this. They move into businesses, family structures, groups of friends, all kinds of groups. People are hell-bent on this hierarchy of being the boss. Isn't that just our version of playing God? Let me ask it to you this way. Some of you are confused and you're just not getting what we're talking about here. Alan Watts, the famous philosopher, British philosopher, who I love, they have thousands and thousands of hours of Alan Watts talks and speeches on YouTube that you can go and listen to. I suggest checking them out. And he has a critique of the Christian faith. I believe it's titled something like Christianity as Mysticism, something like that. And he asks this question that's directly to what we're talking about. I'll ask it to you. How could you think that a republic is the best form of government. How could you think that? I know a lot of you think that. How could you think that? How do you think that? When you believe that a monarchy rules the universe. How are you free in this country when you're a slave to God? You believe in your heart of hearts that the universe, that heaven, that it rules, that there's a monarchy that rules the universe, that there's a king of kings that rules everything. That's what you believe. So then how are you free? Why would you possibly talk about a republic when all you believe in is a monarchy? You see the dilemma that the founding fathers got into with this? How do we create a country where people don't worship our leaders as kings? And the kings in Europe had a hierarchy under God. It went God, Jesus, and then King George, or whichever king. We don't think that here. Our politicians are no better than us. The president, as much as you may like or hate him, whatever, he's no better or worse than you. He's just a citizen from our society. And when they're done with their term, they go back to being citizens. They're not gods. However, you get certain religious people, real heavy-duty religious people, heavy-duty Christians. They wanted to turn Trump into a messiah. Isn't that crazy? I live down here in the Deep South. And it wasn't just one or two people. It wasn't just one weird church in the backwoods. This was a whole segment of the conservative party, however extreme it may have been, that truly believed, they would cry about it. They truly believed that Trump was a messiah sent by God in the hierarchy of God. He was like Jesus. This is what people do when they believe that a monarchy is a better system of government than a republic. When you believe that kings are better than freedom, you would rather be ruled by a king than to be free. For some people, to have no God, a ruling God, a brutal, angry God, to have no God that's above you. How dare you say that you're as good as God or that you are God? Oh, if you said that you are God, oh, that's so offensive, right? How dare you? And people, it's terrifying to them to think that they could go around on this planet totally 100% free. Because what would that mean? If you were free and you had no constraints, nobody wagging their fingers and there'll be punishments. You better not. We call God the Father. Should we stay in a little boy's mentality for our entire lives? Where we're always like, Daddy, Daddy, please, can I do this, Daddy? Begging for forgiveness, begging for permission. Grown men who call themselves free, who are promoting republics, going around worshiping a fantasy, pretending to be children, acting like slaves. I know this is offensive to some of you heavy-duty Christians. We have to be critical of this. This is what our founding fathers did. They sat and had this same conversation. How can we promote a republic when we believe in our heart of hearts that a monarchy rules the universe? Which is it? What do you want? Do you want freedom? Or do you want fascism? Do you want to be ruled? You want to be a servant? Or do you want to be free like the birds? Oh, wait. Animals don't go to heaven according to heavy-duty Christians, right? We don't get to see our dogs in heaven. They had to amend that one. The Pope came out a couple years ago and said, yeah, your dog will go to heaven. Isn't that funny? Animals are free because they don't have the mental constraints, this fantasy that they've created to turn themselves into servants to a mythical, invisible watcher, one that's so shallow and unconfident that if you forget to pray or don't pray at all, he'll punish you. He gets all butthurt and upset. It's the God that you've created, that you worship, and it's so offensive that I'm even talking about it this way. If you can't be critical of a system, you're just part of a cult. I don't know. It's food for thought.